This is Tom Colley for Through the Ropes Boxing. It's an absolute pleasure to be here at the Matchroom Gym, joined by none other than Super Featherweight World Champion Joe Cordina. Joe, how are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, my man. You okay?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Very good. Joe, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Seeing you there doing some good rounds. Got your next fight coming up. How are you feeling in camp? Sparring well?
Yeah, everything's gone to plan. It's sparring well. Got 12 rounds out today, 3 different fighters, different opponents. So got them out quite comfortably. Even I've had a hard week at this. Well, it's the start of the week, middle of the week. But I've had a hard start to the week and a beast of a week last week. So even though I've got him done, I'm still recovering from last week, really. But everything's going to plan, and I'm looking forward to May 18th.
You won the world title last year, Joe. I mean, unbelievable achievement, something that everyone in boxing starts out, dreams of as a kid. How did that feel for you, Joe? And is it something that you always believed that you could do? Yeah,
well, it was the second time doing it for myself. So last year, the first time I won it in June 5th, 22, and then got stripped because of an injury, and then had to win it back. So it was just a little bit sweeter the second time around. The first time was great, and it was a great achievement, and I always knew I could do it. I never got into boxing just to be a part of it, and I want to be the best in everything I do. Even if me and my mates are running up the stairs, I want to win. So I'm competitive. I always believed I could win it. When I went in the office before my first world title fight with Eddie and Frank and Charlie, and I said, you just get me the shot and leave the rest to me. And that's what I went and done. I went and snatched it with both hands, beat Ogawa, knocked him out in a second round, and then got stripped and had to go and win it back. So great achievement, but there's still a lot I need to do in the sport and want to do in the sport.
You're fighting on the undercard of the Fury versus Usyk fight. We know that got postponed. How hard has it been for you, Joe, having to, obviously you've gone through a hard, grueling training camp, the fight gets postponed, gutting, then get yourself refocused and get yourself back in top shape again? Because I know it's all about timing in camp and getting yourself ready to peak on that fight night. Has that been a challenge for you?
Physically, no. Mentally, it was at the start. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm professional. I've done this. I've been through 20 camps. Obviously, this being my 18th fight, but I've had 2 fights where I've been injured at the end of the camp, so I've had to pull out of them fights due to injury. So this is my 20th time doing it. So yeah, it's nothing new. No fault of my own, but these things happen in boxing. I came back. I carried on training, and then I realised if I carried on training the way I was training, I was going to burn out. So I went on a 2-week holiday to Dubai, but still doing little bits over there, ticking over, and then came back, had a week off, and started my camp again. So yeah, it's been tough in the sense of training wise. It's been a high graft. Tony's pushing me to my limits this one, and sometimes I ask him, I say, are you trying to kill me? Are you trying to hurt me? He was like, mate, I'm just doing my job. So if he wasn't doing that, then he's not doing his job. So yeah, it's been tough, but we get through. We keep moving.
We've seen the influence of Saudi Arabia, obviously making huge fights. You've got the 5v5 coming up, Fury versus Usyk for the undisputed title. I believe it's the first time you fought in Saudi. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where we fight. Fight in a back garden, a phone box, don't really matter, does it? It doesn't matter that everything that's going on outside of the ring. It's just 2 fighters in the ring, and you get on with it. But it's going to be a new experience, the whole setup, because I know they go all out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it in the sense of the whole build-up, because I love fight week. But then when it comes down to the fight, it's only me and Katchi in there. So yeah, it doesn't matter where we fight.
Your opponent, like you just touched on there, Anthony Cocacha, what are you expecting from him, Joe? Do you know much about him? I'm sure you've seen him fight. Do you study your fights for opponents, and what are you expecting from Anthony Cocacha?
Yeah, he's a good fighter. I'm a boxing fan at the first and foremost. So I've watched him. I've seen him fight in the past, and yeah, he seems a good guy, and I'm a fan of his boxing. He's a great fighter, but when it comes down to it, we got to fight, and that's it. I do study a little bit, not as much as Tony. Tony studies him. Listen, he's one of the best at reading a fighter and putting a game plan together. So I leave a lot of it to him, and then I recap just before fight week, and then we sort of refresh the memory. But yeah, I leave a lot to Tony, and then we go out. But I know roughly what to expect. But I'm an experienced fighter, and I can adapt to anything. So yeah, it's what it is on the night, isn't it?
Do you have a prediction for the outcome of the fight with Katchi?
Nah, we just win. That's all that matters. You don't win, you go back to the back of the queue. So for me, I have to win this fight to secure my family. So and that's how I've approached every single fight. This fight is a world title fight. This fight secures my family. This fight allows me to live and give my kids whatever they want. So each fight is that's how I approach it.
We know you're a consummate professional, Joe, so you won't overlook anyone. You're obviously the favourite for this fight, and as fans, we expect you to come through it. Without overlooking anyone, what's next for you after Katchi, Joe, if you come through that fight? Anything you've got your eyes set on?
I've always said if after this fight, even before this fight was made, so yeah, I'm not looking past Katchi whatsoever. He's a great fighter, and it's going to be a tough fight. But if we get through this on the May 18th, then unless I can get a unification, I'll be moving up to lightweight. So that's the plan.
That's exciting, Joe. There's obviously some huge names up at lightweight, like Devin Haney. We've just seen a huge fight with Garcia and Haney. So they the sort of names you've got your eyes set on. Gervonta, Tank Davies as well. There's some real mega fights there for you.
Yeah, like I said yesterday to Tony, and he was like, listen, we need to win these fights and keep moving and keep fighting these big fights. I said, well, before I retire, I said I need a massive fight against one of them big Americans. Because when everything's said and done, and you only hear about the big American fighters down the line. Like you got like Joe Calzaghe, one of the best fighters to ever do it, and especially from Britain, he's the best fighter to ever come from Britain. And no one really mentions his name. It's because it's out of sight, out of mind. And the UK's, even though they got the best fans in the world, they're a small boxing nation. And when it comes to the Americans, they only talk about the Americans. So yeah, I want to get in there with one of them big Americans and see what a crack is.
There's still a lot to come from you, Joe. I know you're 32 now. You're almost in the prime of your career. Like you touched on those big fights, Gervonta, Davies, those guys, Devin Haney. How many more years do you think you've got left in the sport, Joe? And you obviously want those huge fights. Do you have sort of a timeline? Have you got a plan in place? Yeah,
well, listen. In my head, I got a time scale, a time frame, and my eldest is coming up 9 this year, so there's only going to be another 2 years before she's in high school, and it gets to a point where my eldest will hold my hand walking down the street now. 2 years when they're in high school, that's not cool anymore. So I don't really want to be missing I've missed all of her life, I'll be honest. I was on Team GB when she was born, and sacrificed so much and sacrificed my relationship with her growing up because of boxing, trying to give her everything. But the last couple of years I don't really want to miss, so I got a time frame in my head, and I still got a lot to do in the sport, but yeah, hopefully we can get that done and then enjoy my last couple of years with my daughter before she goes off and does her own thing.
So we know you're looking to move up if you come through this next fight. We mentioned some of the names there, the Americans. Is there anyone in particular, Joe, you've got your eyes set on that you'd like to fight before you finish your career?
No one in particular, but I just want a big fight. Like obviously Shakur, when he was at Super Featherweight, he called me up. I wouldn't mind having a crack at him. He always says no one wants to fight him. I'd happily jump in with him, but yeah, it is what it is. It's got to make sense for them as well as myself. So there's a lot of fighters out there, innit? And I just want to be involved in a big fight, a big massive fight, and secure my family.
Shakur Stevenson, that would be a great fight. That's a good name. Do you believe you win that fight?
Listen, if I was to go in and say no, who am I? Well, I shouldn't be in the ring. But yeah, I believe I can beat anyone. On my night, I'll beat anyone.
And just finally, Joe, you mentioned Joe Calzaghe there, one of the best British fighters of all time. I agree.
Not one of, is the best.
I agree. I believe he's the best British fighter of all time. Is he someone you idolised growing up and looked up to when you're coming into the sport?
Well, to be honest, when I was growing up, I started boxing when I just before my 16th birthday. So, and I think I had my first fight when I was 16. So growing up, Joe Calzaghe wasn't in my sights. Do you understand? It's only when I started getting into the boxing I realised obviously calzaghe was who he was and how good he was, and when he started beating the likes of Kessler, Roy Jones and stuff like that. Like a lot of people say Roy Jones was over the hill, maybe Bernard Hopkins was over the hill, but nah, Bernard Hopkins went on to win the world titles after Joe beat him. So listen, Joe is the best fighter to come out of Britain by far, and yeah, he's someone, when I got into boxing, he's someone I looked up to and wanted to emulate. And good friend of mine, I speak to him every time I see him. I always have a good chat and a good catch up. And yeah, he's good to have advice off if I need it. I'm sure he'd give it.
You text Joe and then set up an interview with me and him on Through the Ropes if you wanted, Joe. But
he's a busy man.
I know, of course. Joe Cordina, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Tom Colley for Through the Ropes Boxing with Super Featherweight champion Joe Cordina.
Cheers, my man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.